You know what's wild? Sometimes the craziest decisions come wrapped in silk and steel, all in the same moment, and you're standing in a room where everyone's watching, waiting to see if you'll fall apart or rise up and break the rules right in front of them. I remember the exact moment my life spun on its head. Will you marry me? The CEO in the glass tower whispered those words, and the janitor, the single dad with a daughter in the hospital, he just stared back, probably thinking, this cannot be real, right? But here's the thing. If I married someone, I'd lose everything I thought I was. If I didn't, I'd lose the company, the legacy, the last piece of my father I ever wanted to own, and believe me, that boardroom, full of expensive suits and expensive smiles, they smelled blood, and I was the target, not the queen. You want a hostile takeover? That's what they called it. But let's be honest, it was more like a pack of wolves deciding which piece of the lioness they'd eat first. I'd kept Monroe Holdings running through scandals, mergers, backroom deals, but the only thing that mattered now was my ring finger, not my record, not the billion-dollar quarters, just the fact that I had no one to stand next to me. So yeah, when Alan, my father's old lawyer, spelled out the amendment, when he said, you marry in 90 days or the trust takes control, I didn't blink. I just tapped my nails on the table, slow and cold. Staring right at Kendra, she smiled like she'd already won. Maybe she had, for a minute. But let me back up a sec. The elevator down from that meeting felt like a coffin. No music. No light except the red numbers counting me closer to a future I never wanted. I got off, and there he was, Samuel Cross, janitor, children's author who hadn't published in years, talking to his little girl on the phone, spinning stories about dragons and bravery, not knowing anyone was listening. He was supposed to be invisible. But that's the thing about some people. They don't disappear, they just wait for you to see them. He didn't look up, but when I asked if that was a bedtime story in the middle of a Tuesday, he answered like it was the most normal thing in the world. His daughter was sick, stories came early, hope was rationed. I asked him, right there in the hall, if he wanted to marry me. Legal. No press, no romance, just survival, just strategy. He laughed, then didn't, then looked me dead in the eyes and asked, you want to marry a janitor to trick your board? No, I said. I want to marry someone they can't control. You know, most people would have run, but he just said, does your plan include my daughter? I promised she'd never be part of it. He agreed. On one condition, I could never lie to her. Not once. And I shook his hand, and for the first time in years, I felt like someone had given me a rule I actually wanted to keep. But Samuel Cross? He didn't exist online. No social media, no LinkedIn, nothing, just an old pen name. Eli North, a stack of children's books, a hospital bill that would break anyone's back, and a daughter who drew pictures of hospitals with hearts that flew. We met at a dingy cafe, signed an agreement over black coffee. He only cared about one thing, that I never used his kid as a pawn. I said deal. 2 days later, we married at City Hall. No witnesses, no flowers, just a cold morning and vows recited like lines from a contract. And yet, as I slipped the plain silver band on his finger, he looked at me and asked, you really believe in loopholes this much? I told him I believed in survival. But even I wasn't sure I still knew what that meant. Later that night, he hugged his daughter, in their motel room. She showed him a drawing of a girl with wild hair holding hands with a tall man, hospital in the background, heart with wings above it. That's to make sure I can still fly in my dreams, she said. Samuel's throat caught, and when she asked about his new ring, he told her it was just pretend. But you could see it stung, telling her a story that wasn't true, not all the way. My penthouse never felt emptier than that night. My phone buzzed. Marriage official, Alan texted. You're safe. Was I? I pulled out my father's old planner. The last line he ever wrote. Legacy requires sacrifice. The Monroe line must never bend. But all I could think was, maybe bending is the only way things don't break. That should have been the end, right? Safe, married, on paper. But nothing about this story moved in straight lines. The next night, Monroe Tower threw a gala, business cards and fake laughter everywhere. And just as I slipped away, who do I find in the elevator but Samuel, mop in hand? Then the elevator stops. Dead. The lights flicker out. I'm not claustrophobic, but I don't do tight spaces, you know what I mean? He sat down on the floor, cross-legged, and started telling a story, making it up as he went. And just like that, The panic faded. 10, 20 minutes. He made me laugh about the way elevators hum in a storm, about how sometimes you spend your whole life in a small room, just painting the walls with money. He said, walls don't become windows just because you decorate them. And for a second, I almost forgot I was supposed to be untouchable. Rumors started the next morning. CEO, stuck in an elevator with a janitor. By lunch, Alan had called twice. I ignored him. Samuel's daughter, ended up in my office that afternoon, sick, sketchbook in hand. She drew me, not as the ice queen everyone whispers about, but with a crown and a Santa hat. Because you looked like a sad princess. So I gave you something happy. I couldn't even answer at first. I dropped to one knee and said, you drew exactly right. And I meant it. You want a twist? Kendra pushed for a board vote, tried to strip me of everything with Samuel's name still on a janitor's badge. That's when Samuel showed up in a suit, tie crooked, box in hand. I want to renew the contract, he said. No expiration date, no boardroom motive. Just us. Right there in front of the whole board, he said, I'm her husband, and I'm not going anywhere. Sometimes the strongest proof is just the hand you don't let go of. That's not even the real ending, though. The real ending was a hospital room, Na's surgery scheduled at dawn, machines blinking. Fear everywhere. I stayed. Me, the woman who never stays. Na squeezed our hands in her sleep. 3 of us linked in the dark, and for once, the thing I wanted most wasn't power or survival or legacy. It was just not losing the family I didn't know I'd built. When she woke up after surgery, breathing steady, Samuel whispered, she never lets go of people she loves. She gets it from you. I almost believed him. Spring came. The 3 of us, rooftop garden, sunlight, and cheap folding chairs. A tiny ceremony, Na in a yellow dress, paper crown, ring bearer, boss of us all. We said vows we actually meant. Love isn't a replacement, Samuel told me. It's a new page. And I want every page from here on out to have your name in it. I said, you didn't ask me for anything. You just stayed. That's how I learned what safe feels like. Na said we were making her cry, and she wasn't even old yet. No headlines, no photographers, just cupcakes, paper cranes, and the kind of silence that feels like home. Sometimes you spend your whole life trying to impress ghosts, but every once in a while, a little girl hands you a new page, and you get to start again. So let me ask you, what do you think? Is it ever too late to choose your own family, to break your own rules for the right reason? Drop your thoughts below. If stories like this move you, hit subscribe, share your own, and stick around, because sometimes the best vows are the ones we never meant to say, but choose to live anyway. Stay brave, stay kind, and never stop believing in second chances. I'll see you in the next story.